Hey team, this is Nathan from RunDreamAchieve.com. Today's topic I want to talk on the idea of common runner mistakes. And the reason why I wanted to make this video is because I've made several mistakes over the years as well as a runner. My highlight of my career was running 2:19:35 for finishing fourth at the 2007 California International Marathon. But that was the pinnacle of my racing performances. I didn't just get to 2:19. I had several failures, several setbacks along the way. One of the most common mistakes, at least that I made as an athlete, was rushing the process. You can't rush fitness. So expect the fact that what you're trying to do may take several months, may take several years, it may take over a decade to get to a point where you are racing at your highest level. And rushing your fitness and expecting quick results in this sport is not going to, it doesn't normally happen that way. We want to do great. We're already highly motivated athletes, very driven for success, and we want to do the very best that we can. But a lot of times we get upset or we doubt ourselves when we don't get the results that we want as quickly as we want. You know, back in 2002, when I first started running marathons, I wanted to go under 2 hours and 20 minutes, like in my first marathon. I ran 2:43:36 in my debut at the 2002 New York City Marathon. And, you know, even when I was in college, I never envisioned being a marathoner. But it took literally from the time I started running in 1992 as a freshman in high school until 2007 to run under a 2 hour and 20 minute marathon. So those are the things a lot of athletes don't see. They see the fast times, they see athletes that make it look easy, but they don't see that process that went into those fast times. So I definitely highly recommend you going back into the Run Dream Achieve YouTube channel and rewatch that video I made on process versus event. Go to the search bar in the YouTube channel and just type in event versus process. I actually made 2 videos on that, which I think will really help you out in terms of, just going back for motivation. You know, you're going to have some times in this sport where you're going to doubt yourself, and you're not going to want to get out the door for that second workout, where you don't have the training partners to be with you to push you in those, repeat 100s or repeat 800s, whatever types of workouts you're going for. But that's one of the biggest mistakes I made. Running, trying to rush the process, trying to expect quick results, misunderstanding how long it was actually going to take to go after the types of times I was going for. And so you have to be extremely patient. You have to have a belief in delayed gratification, if you really want to be successful in this sport. And some of the other common runner mistakes that I made over the years was, improper pacing in the race, going far too aggressive, far too soon. I remember going out running, and it was a DNF. Again, I've had some great successes, but I have had a lot of failures as well. I ran the Virginia Beach half marathon. I think it was back in like 2008 or 2009. And I started the race, but I went out the first 2 miles in that race with Ryan Hall and hit the 2 mile mark at 9:28. Okay, so for me, that was way too aggressive, way too anaerobic. That was a normal type effort for a Ryan Hall, who could go out and run who's run 2:04:58 at the Boston Marathon, and holds one of, if not the fastest time ever run by American. So you have to know your limits, and you have to make those mistakes. It's not always perfect. You are going to make mistakes. And another thing, another runner mistake I made is just beating myself up for too long. As I grew in the sport and as I became more mature as an athlete, I realized and started studying what the best runners do, how they handle setbacks, is you give yourself very limited time to dwell on a poor race or a poor workout. Get over it. It's the past. You can only focus on what's ahead. Find out what you did in that race or what you did in that workout that didn't pan out for you, and try not to continue to make that mistake over and over again. And I can guarantee you and promise you that I never went out in a half marathon and hit the first 2 miles in 9:28 ever in my career, outside of that one time when I was trying to race Ryan Hall. and trying to think I could outrun a 2:04 marathoner. Okay, so you have to be realistic. Definitely dream big and be aggressive, but also know your limits. And I don't necessarily put limits on other athletes or myself. You just have to aggressively and stay on your goal for a long enough period of time to see what you're actually capable of doing. And sometimes you're going to have to make those mistakes along the way, and you're going to have to test yourself and see what you are capable of. If you go out far too anaerobic, you go into oxygen debt, it's going to be very hard. You're either going to jog the last few miles or kilometers of your race, or you're going to DNF. And sometimes even the best world-class athletes, unfortunately, have a DNF. They, for whatever reason, it's not fun to do not finish a race. I've only had a few of those in my career, maybe about 4 total. It's not fun, but again, it's that learning curve. You go along, athletes don't just perform at the very top level immediately. So the same with you. In terms of common runner mistakes, that's one of the biggest ones that I've made over the years, is just misjudging pace. Being far too aggressive and going with the flow of the race, going out with the leaders of the race. And you have to be in great anaerobic shape in order to do that. When I ran 2:19:35, I went out with the leaders again. I hit the first half in 1:07:09 at the 2007 California International Marathon. You can look up those results and see the splits. And the leaders of that race, the only 3 guys that beat me was John Githoga of Kenya, Laban Moibin, who actually won the race from Kenya, and the guy that finished ahead of me was a Canadian who ran 2:16. And the Russian that was behind me finished in 5th place. He ran 2:23, and he himself was a 2:12 marathoner. So it was after several years of training that I was able to go out that aggressive the first half marathon and still be on 2:15 or 2:16 marathon pace, 1:44:05 at the 20-mile mark. So yes, you can go out aggressive, but you had better have done your homework and training, and you have got to be patient enough to put in that hard anaerobic work to make sure that you don't misjudge your pace and then you pay for it. So it's much better to negative split in your race. It's one of the best, in terms of correcting common runner mistakes, is instead of running a positive split, going out far too fast and then coming back the second half slower, go out more conservative, still be aggressive, but not so aggressive that you're going to go into oxygen debt, and then really attack that second half of your race. If it's a 5 or if it's a 10K, wait till you get to that first 5K before you make your move. If you're in a 5K, wait till you hit that first mile to plan your attack. When I ran my best 5K on the roads, I ran 14:18 in Denver at 5,300 feet. I didn't make my move in that race until just past the first mile mark. So I tried to make the 5K race a 2.1 mile race rather than a 3.1 mile race. So it's, again, being conservative, knowing your limits, and learning from your mistakes, because every athlete has made mistakes, from beginners to elite level athletes, from athletes that have broken 2:20 for the marathon to athletes that have broken 5 hours for the marathon. We have all had to take our licks along the way until we got to a point where we could sustain pace. Another mistake I see a lot of athletes make, and I made too, is not running enough mileage each week. If you're running too little mileage, and it's not so much about the volume you're doing, it is really about the quality of the work you're doing, but you also have to pay attention to easy running. Easy running is still very important in terms of building your endurance, building your confidence, that, if you can go out and just run easy for 20 miles, maybe your previous long run was 12 miles and then you got it out to like 18 or 20 miles. That does something to athletes, psychologically as well, knowing that, wow, I went from 12 miles to 18 miles and now I'm out to 20 miles. And maybe you're preparing for a 10K or a 20K. Think of how strong and how confident you're going to be doing an 18 or 20 mile long run, and you're just training to race over a 10K or maybe a 20K distance. Even if you're training for like a half marathon, doing a long run of 18 to 20 miles is going to give you phenomenal strength, because you've spent more time on your feet, you're burning fat, you're getting fitter, you're getting more confident. Doing running more mileage definitely helps strengthen you not only physically, but also, you know, encourages you and motivates athletes, and it gives you that sense that, hey, I'm doing the necessary work in order to get the kind of results I'm looking for. So a common runner mistake I made is earlier in my career definitely was not running enough mileage. I did start running, I got up to as high as 142 miles a week, which didn't yield the results I was wanting. You know, I ran my PR in the marathon and half marathon on 85 to 90 miles a week. So it's not necessarily the volume. Sometimes you can test yourself and think that higher mileage is going to be the answer to you getting a faster time, when it's not necessarily that. You got to look at what you're doing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis and find out what percentage of that weekly volume are you training at or close to or far below your goal race pace, whatever that race pace is. So you have to practice more training well below goal race pace, but you also have to factor in how important easy recovery pace is as well. You know, it's not just about the volume you're doing, it's about how you're setting up your training to ensure that you get the best results and that you can recover from the hard anaerobic work you're doing. So these are a couple of the running mistakes I made, common runner mistakes that I made until I got to a point where I could run where I eventually did. You know, I ran 2:26 for the marathon when I was 35. I ran 2:19 when I was 31. My last marathon was back in 2013. I ran 2:32 when I was 37. So I have experience in multiple distances from the 800 meters. I ran 2 flat as a high schooler, 4:25 for the 1600 as a high schooler, 9:46 for 3200 meters, ended up running 9:27 for 2 miles in college, 4:22 for the mile, 14:18 for 5K, 50:54 for 10 miles, 1:07:06 for the half, and 2:19:35 for the marathon. All of that, the times didn't immediately come. It was a matter of learning from the mistakes that I made in past races and eventually getting to a point where I was just staying committed. And that's what you have to do. You have to stay committed, be tenacious about what you're going for, know that what you're doing and what you're going for is already I already know if you're watching this video, you're a highly motivated individual. Maybe you're trying to break a 2:50 marathon, or, you know, or trying to run under a 35-minute 10K, or maybe you're trying to break a 4-hour marathon. Wherever you are currently, what you're going for is going to take time. It's going to take you're going to have to be aggressive. You're going to have to be smart about your training. You're going to have to think about, what do the best middle to long distance runners do in training, and how do they think and mimic that work ethic? You know, duplicate that work ethic that you see that other athletes, you know, what they do. You know, that's why I make these videos. That's why I share a blog post on RunDreamAchieve.com, to at least share with you concepts and strategies that I hope will take you to the next, you know, level in your running. And it doesn't matter if you're a total beginner, it doesn't matter if you're overweight, doesn't matter if you're an elite runner, a veteran of the sport. We all can learn from the mistakes that we've made and what other athletes have made. So watch your pacing early on in your races. Don't be too aggressive. Be smart. Watch how you're setting up your training, and if too much of your volume is run too aerobically, you have to start stressing the body's energy systems, or you're not going to be able to sustain race pace for longer periods of time. So I'll end here for now. I don't want to make this video too long, but I definitely hope this was helpful for you. Feel free to leave me a comment below if you have any questions or concerns. Please give me a like if you can. It helps the channel grow. And if you're new to the channel, or you're an existing, you've watched a lot of my other videos, definitely hit the bell icon and the subscribe button, so when I make new videos, you'll be notified of it. So I wish you all the best in your training, and I will talk to you in the next video.